today I want to show you how to make something a size that's going to work for you to take away the need for you to look around at your design. In other words, I'm going to look like a duck. There you go. What I want to show you here is that I'm measuring out on this whole paper a size that would either be as big as your hand to use for my drawing area, okay, especially if I were doing thumbnail sketches or something small, but in any case, this really works so that it's a size where your eyes aren't looking around into too big of a space. In other words, I can't see over here and over here all at once. If I'm at this distance from the paper, I can put this up on the wall and then I can get away from it, or I can throw it onto the floor and get away from it. But in terms of working at this distance and being able to see all components of my design, I want it to be no bigger than my hand and no smaller, unless you want it smaller, than my palm. So this would be about the palm size. And so it's no smaller than this, no larger than that. Okay, now back to wasting paper. A lot of people feel like they're not using all of the paper and stuff like that, and I would suggest that you forget about that. The other thing that we could do before I get out my handy dandy brand new, just because I get a lot of these and like to have them around and like to loan them out to my students and stuff, this right triangle is going to make that very, very nice, all right? But one of the things that I can do here, just very simply, in order to figure out where the center of my paper is I could donate a piece of paper to figuring that out. And that could always be my template in this entire pad for as long as I use it to finding the center of the paper. So here we are at the center of the paper, no measuring required. Maybe we require a sharper pencil. There we go. And there's the center of my paper. And I'm going to line it up with the piece of paper that's actually right underneath here and give a little dot through it. All right, and that's where the center. Why can I not see this dot through it? Anyway, here we go. Oh, I see, because the little piece of paper is right there that I pushed out, but I didn't really push it out. So there's the dot. There's the center. Okay, so that will go off to the side. And then I'm going to throw this paper underneath it over so I'm not looking at it. It's one of the reasons to take your paper out of the pad so you're not looking at the shadow from what you drew before. You think you can push all that out of your brain, but you can't necessarily. Anyway, I could just draw this in any way that I want, and that is not going to be wrong. It's going to be fine. Or I could open up this right triangle, pull it out of the pack. I love these things for a lot of different reasons. Go into them in different ways at different times here. But the main thing I love it for is for making really nice, I better stick to what I was talking about, no bigger than my hand. Let's put it that way. Okay, so that's going to be right there. And I'm going to kind of eyeball this. I'm not going to get that tight about it. Flip the right triangle. Maybe I wouldn't want to flip it because they've got these awesome edges on it, but I'm going to use this side right here to come across here, and then I'll use my original edge up here to line up and come down. All right, and I'll come back and go ahead and do this. Now, I didn't get it in the center, did I? It doesn't really matter. it doesn't really matter. It's the idea that it's got space all around it if it went into a frame, but we're not working on things going into a frame at this point in time, and we're not working on being perfect. We're just getting something that's no bigger than my hand, and in this case, no higher than my palm, all right? But it could have been bigger, all right? But it doesn't have to be. I can see the whole thing. This is definitely pressing the limits. I kind of added in my wrist there. It's pressing the limits of how wide I can view it without taking my eyes and pushing them over here and then pushing them over here. Definitely this distance, I can see that all at once. So I'm ready to go. Now, I also wanted to show you, again, this kneaded eraser. And they come like this, and they're wrapped in the cellophane. And if you have a nice sharp knife, like just a kitchen knife or something, it'll help you open these. Otherwise, they can be a little bit sticky. This one's very sticky, actually. See how sticky this one is? Usually they're not sticky like that. This one must have gotten hot or something. Anyway, no longer will this, when opened, look like this, and will become looking like this, because this is how you work them. When they start getting any kind of pickup of, in this case, the graphite, but they can also be used for charcoal, and they were invented as the charcoal eraser. You wouldn't really think about using any other kind of eraser on charcoal. On graphite, see, it got dark, all right, and all I do is take this, fold it, knead it. If you've ever made bread, that's one of the places the word kneading came. Out. Okay, and so I made that a little bit lighter, and I can still see it. I hope you can still see it. It doesn't need to be any darker than that, and in some ways it needs to not be any darker than that, because I don't want the edge of this becoming a feature of the drawing. So I'm all ready to start, and I have now reformatted my paper. The paper was already in a format, meaning it was this length and this width, and now my drawing's going to be done in here. Now it's a different dimension, it's a different ratio of height to width than this was, and it's a different scale. It's important to be, from the very beginning, to know that you can change the configuration of where your design is going. And a lot of times, if you're working out in the field or even just designing a greeting card, a birthday card or something for your friends, you will, maybe depending on envelope size, decide on a certain size of it. But let's say you're just going to make something to turn into a postcard and send it out. You can make it any size you want. And it's important to work on different sizes other than these size papers that we get. We often just open a pad and then we start plopping something on it, and it doesn't include the consideration of the height and the width of the design. That is something that is always there, and it's important for you to make it what you want. You don't have to know what that is, but know that you're not bound by the size paper, and that you don't always have to put everything on that paper. Now, partially because you're watching this and I want you to be able to see what my pencil's doing, I'm working with a 9B. B, this is the way drawing pencils are graded, and the B is the softer ones, and I remember that by thinking about butter when it's soft, or these days, well, it gets kind of oily actually, the coconut oil. But anyway, when things get warmer, they get softer. But in this case, actually, coconut oil would be a C. This would be a B. This is a 9B, and that means that the pencil is a softer pencil, and 9 is at the high range of how soft it is. I'm working it very, very lightly, and just barely touching the paper, it goes on this dark. Okay, which isn't dark, which is what I want. I'm also way back on my pencil. I'm not in here trying to make some kind of a shading, some kind of a smudging. some kind of a change in tonal value, which is what I'm doing. I'm changing the tone of the whole paper, and I don't want to use a writing grip for that. I want to use a painting grip, which is also a drawing grip. So hopefully you can see my hand all this time. Let's move this up a little bit. And it doesn't have to be perfect when you do this. In fact, I could go out of the lines like this. And if that were more comfortable, I could also turn the paper around and I could be out there like that. And in some ways, I want to tone the whole paper, the inside of it here and the edge. But right now, I'm just toning the edge. One of the more advanced thoughts on this, which you don't have to be advanced to have this thought, is that when the edges of the paper, now here I'm going to just make this be a good tool for me by shaping it into something that goes ahead and wipes this off. It's not that much different than wiping something up with a paper towel. I'm going to pull this across here. You'll see it as I go across. You'll see it's gone. And then I'll come in here too. If it's not picking up as much as I want, I'll clean it up again. Pull this across here. And then I'm going to pull this across here. So I want you to see how forgiving this entire method is when you are making your own format and toning the paper. I don't want to push this into the paper very much, so I would use this stump. This thing is called a stump. Or I could use a paper towel, or I could use my hands. If I use my hands, I never really worried about this before, but some of my students said that the oil from your hands can get into your drawing. But you know, I'm not really worried about the archival features of my drawing. Maybe it's going to be kind of a problem if it gets oily and then I can't erase it or something like that. But I'm not going to concern myself with it. So I'm going to just smear it like this, and when it smears outside of the lines, then I'm going to go later and give it a shave, just like I do when it goes out when I'm drawing. So by doing this, you are breaking the white. You're getting rid of this stark white thing that is staring you in the face. And you're also giving yourself a chance and can actually start drawing for you and pulling back some of the lights. And it gives you a feeling just doing this. If you're not sure what to draw, just every day make one of these. And what I find, this is the big revelation here, what I find is that working with my art and children's students, these are people who mostly would never even think about taking an art class except for they're going to be teachers. And more the teachers are wanting to teach art and combine art with different subjects, and also more and more the public schools are being given the charge to teach art. Now, most of us haven't had, unless we have art degrees or something, we haven't had many art classes or art processes or art activities in our elementary schools and stuff. And what we have had has been a little bit limited. Not always, but sometimes for different reasons. But anyway, or no reasons, I don't know. Anyway, here's a nice, awesome thing where this is a little bit darker on the edges and in the corners. And one of the things you're doing by making a little darker in the corners is you're pulling the corners forward. Now, the paper stays flat, I know, but we're talking about visually, it tends to come out towards you. Whatever gets darker or lighter in contrast to everything else kind of comes out at you. And by doing this, we're making kind of a dent in the middle of the picture. And so we're already having some dimensionality. When I have the art and children's students do this, as I'm going to have them do tonight on their very first night, so that they don't leave that room without having been in the classroom, drawing, taking a big stab, or actually a little stab. Why am I calling it a stab? But anyway, we're going to just see what happens. When you get all this prepared, you've been here, you've made something happen already, and then drawing lightly like this, you can begin to draw anything that you want. And if you want to start introducing lines at this time, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and draw different directions here. See about making something that maybe has to do with mountains or something like that. I can also come in here. Let's say I want to have some kind of a lake. And I'm drawing this your direction. So yes, I'm drawing upside down, but that's something I do in the classroom, and I've done it for so many years. It's no big deal. Never was a big deal, or I wouldn't have done it, but it's a great way to look at work, is to look at it different directions. So it's not hard for me, especially when the students have things already started, to come to their drawings from a different direction and be able to say, oh, you know, this got really dark here and it's doing this because of that. But you don't have to know any of that stuff right now. All you want to do is just have the fun of drawing and playing. Now, you do not have to make anything that resembles anything on this. You can simply be somebody who draws, and I'm going to show you this in a minute, you know, that likes to draw in little symbols or something like that, or big symbols. This guy is kind of a big symbol in any case, just the lake itself is in a shape that has a little bit to do with like a double helix. If this went across here like that, and this came across here like that, then we would be kind of starting to have something that flipped around. It doesn't have, but I could make that more of what it is or isn't. You can just imagine. I'm sure you've looked at clouds before, up and down from both sides now. Looked at clouds. And sometimes the clouds suggest things. You see things in the clouds. And if you start to see things in your drawing, you can play with that. There's nothing that says that you can't try to draw something, but I'm showing you how here. I just made my lake into a double helix, and now I'm making the double helix look like it's flipped around, and I don't have to leave it white like that. I can also try to go against the feeling we always have of, if we get something this dark here, I've got to go all the way across with it. Now I'm going to turn the paper so it's easier for me to draw, and I want to just show you that so you'll see that it's easier for you to draw sometimes if you turn your paper, and then you can use your hand in the way that it draws best. I'm left-handed, so my hand wants to go this diagonal way. Okay, now let's say I want to come back across here, and this is one of those deals where when you are overlapping things, as I'm overlapping this double helix here, then I can come back in and erase out. If I wanted to put it in front of this palm tree, then I could pull the palm tree out like that and stick it in there, and I kind of like that. The palm tree like now went through the double helix. What's that about? And if I want that palm tree to show up more, then I'll darken it, and darken it when it comes back up through it. I'll let one of its palm fronds come down on top of it, and I can come in here and start drawing more with the tip of my pencil if I want to, and make things look more textured and more specific. I'm putting the palm tree back in front of the double helix. So, and I can play with palm-esque bark. Palm trees don't have bark, but they have the places that all their fronds before got cut off. So we're playing with that. And again, emphasis is on playing, but it's also on learning, because here I'm learning to change my tone, change where it's dark, where it's lighter, and I'm learning how to use my tools. And these tools that we're using are a dark pencil that can go on very, very evenly and very kind of lovingly, and lightly so that any time it can be changed to lighter. And one of the ways you can also change things to lighter is you can just push on it with the kneaded eraser. It doesn't have to be used like a regular eraser. So if I want to bring in this whole area as lighter, I can just go like that and let that be lighter down there. Maybe kind of lose the definition down here and then get this darker on this end. But none of this, there's no rules for this. You can just keep playing, and it may be scary to do it, but I will tell you, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate it, that it is very, very relaxing, especially when you know there's lots and lots of paper, and you can let all these drawings that you're doing just stack up. You can go back into them at any time. You don't have to finish them. They don't have to be masterpieces. You need to think of them as fun time for you to be with yourself. So when you are with yourself, make sure you make it fun. Make it an investigation that gives you a lot of satisfaction, not what used to possibly happen where you felt like you could never do this. You can do it. We can all do it. And I'm doing this all with scribbling. So whatever you want to do, make rabbits, make cats, make hearts. I love making hearts. We can all make hearts, right? Hearts this way, hearts this way. Hearts this way. Humans love symbols, and this is a great symbol, maybe even to put into your drawing. So you remember to be in a loving state when you draw. That there is no right way, there's no wrong way, there's no mistakes. And anything that you want to change when you're working in pencil, you can change. Choo, choo, choo.